We're here at Messe on the Roland booth, which as ever is very busy and very noisy. But I'm with Stefan, who's going to do his best over the noise to tell us about the Jupiter-80, what it can do and the reasoning behind its design.
Yeah, thank you. The Jupiter-80 is indeed the successor of the famous Jupiter-8, and it's released for its 30th anniversary of the Jupiter-8 birth. Like the Jupiter-8, it shares totally the same philosophy, but we have to understand what was the philosophy of the Jupiter-8 at that time. I was very surprised to hear that the engineers at the time of the Jupiter-80 really were doing their best to recreate acoustic instruments. And when you look at the Roland history, around the 80s, we had the TR-808 release, the TB-303. The first one was supposed to recreate the sound of an acoustic drum set. The other one was supposed to replace a real bass player. So that was the philosophy engineers were into at that time. Of course, when you hear those sounds, the TR-808 and TB-03, they are totally away from what they were supposed to sound. So those products didn't get much success. The success came later on the second-hand market. It could have been the same story with the Jupiter-8. When you look at the preset names of the Jupiter-8, you find names like clarinet, strings, cello, things like that. Hopefully it became a success thanks to the electropop and the fact that it was a very fine instrument. All of this to say that the philosophy was to recreate acoustic tones. And this time we take the challenge again. The difference is that the technology has drastically changed in 30 years' time. And now we are using state-of-the-art modeling technology to recreate all those acoustic instruments.
And can you tell us a little more about the supernatural sound? Because this actually helps you to create the articulations of real instruments.
Yes. So basically, supernatural, you have a supernatural model which models the sound of the instrument. Models the sound of a piano, of an electric piano, of an organ. But you get in trouble when you want to recreate the sound of a guitar, for example, because the interface is different. I have a keyboard and my guitar has strings and frets. So we came with the idea of a behavior model which models the way the instrument is played. It models the user interface of the instrument and translates my user interface, my keys, into the user interface of a guitar. So as a keyboardist, I don't have to care about how to play a guitar. I play my keyboard like I play a keyboard, but it will sound like a guitar. But for example, with a guitar, a keyboardist will hit all notes at once, but the guitar will never be able to have all the strings plucked at once. So what will happen is that it will automatically convert it into a strum. And if you play those chords fast, it will be a down strum, up strum. Things that are the things that the behavior model does in order for you to have a realistic guitar playing, although you are playing a keyboard.
And there's a different model for each type of instrument.
And there is a different model for each type of instrument, of course. I like one of the funniest is the timpani. You have that big timpani orchestral sound, and when you want to play a timpani, when you are a keyboardist, you play like this. And when the instrument is like this and it's supposed to play like this, well, we modeled the timpani player, and now instead of having a very unrealistic and uneven timpani playing, you just use a modulation, and you are really hearing a timpani player, including the final hit, bang, when you just release the key. So that's a funny example, but to show that for every acoustic instrument, we try to find out what are the characteristics of the acoustic instrument playing and try to recreate, taking into account the keyboard playing technique.
Yeah. And this is also quite difficult with bowed instruments like the violin.
Yes, extremely difficult, extremely difficult. And I will tell you the truth, it's still difficult, it's still challenging to play a violin. The modeling helps you, but you will still have to work and to practice on your playing technique to have a
Yes.
realistic. But the model helps you a very great, big time to achieve your result.
Thanks very much, Stefan.
You're welcome. So the first thing that I will show is the sound model itself and how on a piano, for example, the model is able to morph from one dynamic to the other without any velocity switching that would be used in a classical multi-sampling technology. Another example is the behavior model. I was speaking about the guitar. I will now play the guitar like I play the keyboard, but it should sound realistic. And when I hit, for example, two keys like this, if I separate the time between those two keys, the model will interpret these as two different picks. By playing legato, it's like picking once and having only a fret change. And if I do it fast, I even can hear the slide. Another thing is that as a keyboardist, I am able to play many keys together. The model will interpret this as a strum. And if I repeat, it will be a down strum, up strum. If I go to the model and I disable the strum mode, it will sound like a keyboard player. I spoke about the timpani earlier. Here it is. And maybe a last one, the trumpet. Sorry. Maybe a last one, the trumpet. What's interesting in the trill is that when you play a trill slow, when a trumpet player plays slowly a trill, he's able to go deep into the valves. But as the faster he plays, the higher he plays. And that's what happens here, where you can hear the difference between a full valve sound and a half valve sound. Full, half. And because it's a model, the bender here takes into account the harmonic structure of the trumpet. That's about, for example, on the acoustic side. And I told you about massive sounds on the analog side. Here is one, for example.